The times we are living in feel unprecedented. Technological improvements, like AI, are increasing productivity, and corporate profits are through the roof. However, relative wages are through the floor. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Whilst global poverty is in decline in recent decades, poverty in the UK and other developed nations is on the rise. But this is not unprecedented. Over 200 years ago, Britain went through something very similar. The Industrial Revolution massively improved productivity and corporate profits went through the roof. But working and living conditions did not improve, and working people protested the changes. Hello there, and welcome to The Peaceful Route. I wanted to share some of my thoughts on the situation the UK finds itself in. I want this channel to be a place of discussion, and I welcome criticisms, as ultimately, I believe the only way that we can improve our lives is by working together. Coming up with optimistic ideas of what the future could look like is a great place to start. The way I see it, we have two potential routes forwards, both of which ultimately lead to the same end: social and economic equality. If we continue as we are, we will see more and more wealth concentrated into fewer and fewer people. Working people will lose out to cheap labour, previously in the form of developing nations, now in the form of automation. Capitalism has been showing its flaws for some time, but now the cracks are becoming chasms. Companies get lazy. As they grow into monopolies, the competition is gone, and with it, their need to innovate and improve. They're a cartel. If a startup tries something new that could improve things, they're bought out to reduce the potential for competition. For example, Microsoft has been purchasing every medium to large-sized gaming company there is. With Nvidia purchasing Arm, they're further consolidating the chip design space. And even in the newly emerging market of the generative AI space, as soon as ChatGPT gained traction, OpenAI received a huge investment from Microsoft, bringing them into the fold. And just look at the British water companies. The government has essentially mandated a monopoly for them. The owners saddle the companies with debt to pay their executives and shareholders huge quantities, and then we're left to bear the cost of cleaning up the mess they make of the finances and the environment. Allowing private companies to gut our utilities is raising the cost of living, but also making us less competitive as a country. Some industries, like water and electricity, will have downstream impacts across the whole of the UK. They're felt by us directly in the cost of living via our electric and water bills, but they're also felt by all businesses. Almost every business will have some amount of water and electricity usage, from steel manufacturers to tech companies, from cleaners to restaurants. And our other public services, like education and health, can feel this impact too, which has even more compounding effects, making us less effective workers, but less happy people, less healthy people, and just generally worse off. So by allowing profit in every sector, the things that we all rely on create rippling effects that can be felt throughout all of our economy. These costs are passed on to people and businesses downstream and ultimately make us less productive, less competitive, and less of an attractive investment as a nation. As the rich reach their goal of consolidation of power, capitalism will have finally run its course, leaving us where we started. The lords and kings are now in the forms of corporations. Some might argue that at least through capitalism some money and power changed hands from the aristocrats to these new companies, but that is not the case. The upper class of England has largely remained unchanged since William the Conqueror in 1066. They control our land, the companies we work for, and every aspect of our lives. We should not be deluded by capitalism's promise of working hard to do well. In many instances, we are just as trapped as the peasants of the past. Not to say living conditions haven't improved, but the people who are left to starve today are the very same as those of the past. This path can and will only end with revolution. As the working people are more and more oppressed, more forced into poverty and starvation, they will eventually reach a breaking point. However, there is hope for a peaceful route. The biggest change that came from the Industrial Revolution wasn't the efficiencies gained by the machines, but it was in the number of people lifted out of poverty. That has a bigger impact on our productivity than the machines ever could. People not in poverty are more productive and do more to improve their societies than any billionaire. The next great leap will come when all of the poverty class is raised up, which can only come at the expense of the upper class. This will actually improve our economies, not just because by lifting more people out of poverty we enable them to participate in society and improve all of our productivity, but as it stands, the wealth that the upper class hold is actually counterproductive. They buy out the things that we need and rent them back, whereas workers spend their time and money in their communities, creating self-sustaining economies. And so the only solution is to tax the rich. Labour and most major parties are pushing the idea that we cannot afford to improve our quality of living. They're saying that we cannot afford to fund both our welfare system and the NHS. We need to prioritise and choose which of the most vulnerable will lose out. But the rich are richer than ever. Taxing their wealth is putting it to better use. It will improve living standards for everyone and improve the nation's economic growth. If we do not, the rich will eventually hoard everything from our houses to our factories. They will automate us out of work and, in pushing workers to the brink, eliminate their customers, bringing about their own demise. The only solution I can see is the public ownership of assets so that we can share the benefits of automation between all of us. Public utilities like electricity can be delivered as cheaply as possible without focusing on profits, making downstream things like hospitals and factories cheaper to run, improving our lives and making us more competitive on the global scale at the same time. And so these two routes, revolution and democracy, are why I believe equality is inevitable, and I will be posting on this channel more detail on the points raised in this video, as well as alternatives to the government's proposals that will take us closer to the peaceful route, improving people's lives and the economy. On this channel, I aim to increase the discussion around the UK's future. Everyone knows the UK is broken, but rather than playing the blame game, I want to have a conversation about the things that can be improved. The things that I suggest are just my ideas, and some will be better than others. But I look forward to talking about them with you and hearing about each of your ideas and how we can make the future more hopeful for all of us. But before I go, I'd like to leave you on this final thought. The changes we are proposing are not unheard of. After the Second World War, Britain was broken. Our homes, businesses and infrastructure were left in pieces, and public debt was an all-time high, far higher than it is today. But the government focused on rebuilding, not using this debt as an excuse to cut, but as a reason to rebuild. And many foundational elements of our modern society, like the NHS, were introduced at this time. Putting working people first is the only way to fix this country. Almost all of the major parties are telling us we cannot afford this, but this is just to keep our attention averted from the piles of wealth that their wealthy peers and donors are hoarding. Britain needs to rebuild, and the only way to achieve this is by taxing the rich.